Helping Seniors of Brevard. And right now, here's the host of the show, our good friend. Here's our good friend here on Helping Seniors of Brevard Day, Joe Steckler. Hi, Joe.
Hi, John. Thank you for that nice introduction. But, my name's attached to the show because I've been doing it for so doggone long. But Kerry, Fink is really a co-host with me, and he actually does a lot more of the work, I think, at times than I do. But we also have a fledgling guest here today that really is knowledgeable about care of seniors, Jennifer Helin of Seniors Helping Seniors. And but we're going to talk about that. But I just remind everybody that Helping Seniors was formed to inform, educate, and connect seniors to services. And never has that been more prominent and in need than in this business with this coronavirus. I look at some of the requests for help that we get, transportation, advice on whether to keep long-term care insurance or not, and people that just don't understand. And if we can't answer the question very, very knowledgeably, we're going to get the person that calls us to the person that can answer the question with a sound knowledge base. That's just what we do. But at times, you might want to mention something about people, and I always want to take just a minute this morning because some of you might have read in a newspaper about the passing of a Dr. Pat Mattingly from Titusville. Dr. Mattingly was a very, she won't mind because I'm sure she's looking down on us, and she won't mind me telling you how old she was because it said in the paper. She was 91 years old. But those 91 years were seemingly a young 91 years. And I just got corrected on her name as Pat Manning. I don't know why I said Mattingly. It's Manning, Pat Manning. But Pat was always pushing to get help for seniors and children. She believed strongly in the power of education, and she devoted her life to that subject, to education. I first met Pat because she came to me back in 1993 because her mother and father both had Alzheimer's. And I was with her when she lost both her mother and her father. And Pat was a really, really good person. You don't find them like that very often. But I just wanted to, in case some of you saw that obituary in the Florida Day and you didn't know anything about Pat, it didn't really, obituaries don't really convey what the person really was like. And in Pat's case, she was a tremendous person. Even if only one of you that are listening to me today knew Pat, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to pay a little bit of tribute to Pat and ask her to keep watching down upon those people that get to try public seniors because it's so doggone important. Our guest today is Jennifer Helin. Jennifer is the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors, and we asked Jennifer about some of the changes that she's seen in the home care business since all those COVID-19 started in on us. And I'll let you talk about it a minute. What would you say about COVID-19, Jennifer?
So, over the last few months, things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
As we opened back up, and the numbers were still low, we noticed a lot more people having services, getting out of the house, having people in the house, venturing out. Now that those numbers have increased the way they have the last week, we're noticing more people being timid, not wanting as many folks in the home, not wanting to go out to the grocery store because they're nervous. They're nervous about these numbers. So I think a lot of seniors are watching the news. They're keeping informed, which is a good thing. And they are taking action, based on what they're hearing in the news.
I'd also like to just throw something on the table just for a minute. A lot of people criticize our president, but some of you that are old enough to remember, not very many of you listening probably do remember, but the Great Depression of 1929, 1930, 31, 32, everything went to hell in a handbag back then. Mm-hmm. And you can think of it, the stock market took a great big hit, but our president, whatever he did, I don't know what he did, but he's got this stock market going back up in the right direction. He has done a lot of good things. If he would just let that tweeter alone on his cell phone.
Well, actually, when you watch the tweets, it sounds like they're trying to keep him off the Twitter too.
His tweets seem to undo all the good that the man does. And if we would have had a politician in there right now, I just wonder what our country would be like with stuff. I don't know how much President Trump has done to hold us all together, but I strongly suspect somehow he's done this. And there's an interesting statistic I saw the other day that of all the presidents over the last 25, 30 years, 35 years, all of the ones that were Republicans have had more business people on as their staff. Mm-hmm. And whereas the Democrats have seemed to have educators, people that really weren't knowledgeable about the business. And I think on President Obama's staff, only 8% were business people. The rest were educators. And in President Trump's case, 90% of his staff, his close staff, are businessmen, businesswomen, businessmen. And I think that's made a difference in how our country has been able to handle some of these ups and downs over the last 3 or 4 years. Either one of you got an opinion on that?
Well, it's really a complex time now because, I just go back to everybody has their own political view and all that. And but here's the thing. The Bible says a house divided against itself cannot stand. And so what we're seeing today is everybody's yelling at each other instead of trying to work together to solve the problem. And we can all agree that we have problems. And I think that's what what our challenge is. First of all, we go into something that, at least in our lifetimes, we've never dealt with before, which is a pandemic, right? I mean, the people who were alive during Spanish flu aren't really here to tell us how they navigated that, for the most part. Anybody that might still be living was so small that they can only remember what relatives told them. So I think overall, it seems to me like we've done a fairly good job maneuvering through it. And I think the danger for us as a country, while we get distracted by discussions we should be having about statues and police or whatever things that we want to talk about like that, the issue is COVID is still here. And that is right here wherever we are, and that is something we all need to take the same precautions that they tried to teach us about in March. Here we are, we're sitting in the radio studio, we're trying to be correct with our social distancing, we're wearing our face masks, we're using the hand sanitizers, we're doing all the things that seem to be the right things that got us through these first months. And so now when they talk about spikes in certain places, are we really following all those same precautions? They're saying a lot of the second round or whatever first round, second round, but they're saying a lot of what's happening right now is that younger folks are not taking those precautions. They're just excited to be back out again, and maybe they aren't wearing masks, and maybe they aren't observing social distancing, and they've forgotten that, number one, this is still out there, and number two, that all the precautions they were trying to teach us are still the right precautions,
Jennifer?
I completely agree, Kerry, that I think, as we started to open up, people let their guards down. And mm-hmm. we've forgotten what got us through, mm-hmm. And why our numbers in Florida were so good to begin with. You and I were talking right before air. I helped my parents drive up to New York, where they summer, and they're up in the hills in the fresh air. So I'm really glad that they are up there. But one of the things that I noticed while I was there, if I ran to the grocery store, everyone wore a mask. From 3-year-olds to 90-year-olds, every single person that I saw in New York had a mask on if they were out.
I don't blame them.
And, the numbers were so high up there, it scared
Right.
them, and everybody's really behaving themselves. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. Our numbers weren't that bad, knock on wood, down here in Florida. So I think our attitude's a little bit lax comparatively. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to monitor ourselves, do the social distancing, wear our masks so that we're not in the same boat that New York was a couple of months ago.
Kerry and I went to a family reunion type thing over at Pelican Beach last Saturday. And we commented when we were going home that in a immediate group we were with, it was probably 35, 40 people, counting the kids and everything. Not a single person had a mask on. And furthermore, on the whole beach area over there, I don't remember ever seeing anybody with a mask on. And Terry and I both had masks on.
Well,
So
that's smart.
yeah. Well, we've got a neighbor that when this whole thing started, she stayed in her house. And this is a very gregarious lady that likes to be around people. And she has shut herself in her house, and she has groceries delivered. The only thing I think she gets out for is to walk her dog when she thinks somebody else is outside her house.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, she doesn't go around anybody. And but she's got some personal health problems that sure say that she's doing the right thing. But so if she has to go out of the house, she sends her husband on. So, but it's interesting that it's interesting that you see so many diverse things happening, and we watch it, and I just wonder. I am concerned about it, but I keep thinking about, are we doing the right thing? Sometimes I wonder. People maybe test positive for COVID-19, but they're not getting the coronavirus. So.
Well,
They're asymptomatic, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because even while we were just having this discussion, I went back to, we've been doing these Helping Seniors updates every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday out on our social media. So you can see them on Facebook, you can see them on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And we have a link, actually the very first link when you go to the website is back over to the CDC and said, know how it spreads. And the best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. And it says the virus is thought, this hasn't changed, by the way, folks. The virus is thought to spread mainly from person-to-person contact between people who are in close contact with one another within about 6 feet. That's the number one recommendation. And I don't care which side of political aisle you're on about this thing, but when we see these large gatherings, you see on the newscast, maybe it's a protester getting in a cop's face or vice versa, and they're both yelling at each other. Well, what would be the number one thing that you would want to do if you wanted to spread COVID? You would be in somebody's face yelling at them. And so you could say the same about whether we have a big gathering or things like that. But I think the things, if we're responsible and taking the safety precautions, it doesn't seem like we have a problem. And so I remember when we were talking about this in our house, it just seemed like everybody needs to be careful to not let down their guard.
I agree 100%. Jennifer?
I agree totally. Now, the flip side of that, though, is, here in the senior industry, we are isolating our seniors to keep them safe, which is a good thing. But in some cases, we are isolating them so much that they are suffering mentally because of that isolation. And what happens because of that social deficit, they're not eating as well. So they are losing weight. They are not getting to see their family members like they did on a regular basis if they're in an assisted living facility or a memory care facility. So they are seeing record numbers of depression meds, where we've not had that before. They're seeing literally record numbers of prescriptions for stress, anxiety, depression, weight loss. So we're seeing the physical symptoms of all of this come out in other ways as well. So it's a very difficult balance of making sure that everybody is staying socially distant, but yet still staying social, because that's a really important part of our well-being.
But if a person is in a nursing home or an assisted living facility, they won't let outside members come in to see the people.
You're right.
So it's a kind of a catch-22 situation. It therefore becomes more of a staff burden on the assisted living facilities and nursing homes to somehow manage to be able to spend more time with individual people and improve the friendship of the staff and the patient, because somebody has got, as you get older and you don't have anybody, or you've got somebody that's cut off, you got to do something to get something to fill that void.
Well, and some facilities are doing an excellent job with that, but we're also getting reports that some facilities, the residents have not been out of their room in 3 months, and they're getting dinner, lunch, breakfast in a to-go container, and it's being set there on the table, and then they come back and get it later on, and there's no one there to say, hey, you haven't eaten. Come on, let's eat. Let's do something. They don't have time for that one-on-one that some of these people really, really need. So it's troublesome. Some of them are doing a fantastic job, but some of them are not. And it's just a very difficult situation.
Well, this brings to mind something that you might know the answer to, because I sure don't know, because I haven't seen the situation going on right now. But if a person's in a nursing home or an assisted living facility, generally speaking, they have programs going on where they have interactions where the people interact and do things together.
But especially during the beginning of this, no, everybody was in the room. Group activities stopped because they didn't know who had it and who didn't, until they could get everybody tested. And then they're doing continuous testing in the facilities to make sure that, unfortunately, the workers go home. So they're tested on a regular basis to make sure that they are still safe. But like I said, in the beginning, to try to keep everybody safe, everybody was banned to their rooms, and there were no group activities. You've seen the pictures, I'm sure, on Facebook or on Instagram, where they were trying to get creative and they were doing bingo in the hallway. So everybody sat in their doorway and they did bingo that way. They did exercises that way. Many of them have gotten very creative to try to continue that sense of camaraderie, but still keep everybody safe. And you've got excellent facilities, and then you have facilities that may not be so much. We've heard a lot of reports out of Canada that they have not done a good job. So we really have to protect our seniors.
Wait a minute. What you're saying, you've gotten reports that a lot of facilities are not doing a good job of, what did you say?
Up in Canada, there are a lot of reports of, they don't have the oversight that we do, apparently. And we have the Agency for Healthcare Administration that came out and said, you will do this, right at the beginning of the pandemic. They didn't have that. And so they were probably 2 months behind us. And then it was a suggestion. It wasn't a mandate. So by the time they really started putting all of those protocols into place, the last number I saw out of Ontario was like 90% of their deaths were coming from assisted living facilities.
Wow.
So it's such a difficult subject. You've got to isolate them to keep them safe, but yet we're isolating them so much at times that we're causing physical harm the other way.
I never thought about that. You could, Kerry?
Well, I was just going to add to the discussion by saying that I think, honestly, when you think about it, I was asking Jennifer how y'all's business goes with Seniors Helping Seniors. Are you available to help people? Because I think one of the things that you guys do that is so important, besides physically taking care of a task, it's taking somebody to a doctor's appointment, helping them prepare food, maybe fixing something in the home, or the different kind of places that you guys are able to assist folks with. There's a real value in terms of the socialization, I think, that happens with that.
Absolutely. Everything that we do has a social component to it, whether it's just driving to and from the doctor's office. We're making sure that we are doing lots of conversation. We find out what kind of music they like so that we're playing, their type of music while we're in the car. Everything that we do, from transportation to cleaning to meal prep, is all very social.
But you're still doing all that.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you know whether it's safe to go into a house or not?
We're asking a lot of questions, and we're doing a lot of monitoring. And we're communicating a lot with our caregivers. We're communicating a lot with our clients and our families to make sure that it continues to be safe. And any concerns either side. Our caregivers monitor themselves before they leave the house. And one of the good things about having seniors is that, all of our caregivers are in the same position. They are also, everyone we hire is 50 and over. So they have to be very, very careful with themselves. So our caregivers are socially distant because, they're not 20-somethings that are going to the bars as soon as they opened. They're keeping themselves safe because they need to do that for themselves. And then obviously we need to do that for our clients as well.
How many people do you have right now that are active in your organization helping people? About how many?
We've got about 65 people who are active.
Wow. You didn't cheat and get any of them under 65?
Well, we hire 50 and over. Most of our people are 60 and over, but we do have a few younger ones.
The younger ones, yeah. I wish I was 60 again. Holy smokes. I mean, tickled to Fink. Folks, we're just about at the mid-show break, and I'd like for you to stay with us because we're going to talk about scams involved with what's happening right now, and we want to talk about our car raffle a little bit and talk about the need for you to recognize that you got a place to go for help, and this time you can get some really good answers. I was really surprised at some of the answers that Kim, our education specialist, gave to some people. Some darn good answers that lady is coming up with. So stay with us, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Helping Seniors of Brevard, and once again, here's the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard, none other than Joe Steckler. Joe?
Hi, thank you, John, and welcome back to the second half of today's show. I'm going to start the show by giving a couple of phone numbers out so that people are reminded where you can call for help. The phone number down here at the station is WEJF, and you've got Kerry and Jennifer and I that you can ask a question of if you want to. You don't have to take it your name or anything like that. The phone number is 321-722-9998. Hey, this is a talk to me show, and I got to get people to talk to me. If they, other than the two people in the booth with me, if you're afraid, don't be afraid. And on the other hand, we got a phone number at the office for our education specialist, and I just want to give that out so you ought to put it down next to your phone.
Yes.
It's 321-473-7770. I honestly tell you, from the range of questions that I have heard people ask over the last 6 months, it's almost like a smorgasbord that phone calls tell me, because there's every kind of question asked, and I don't know of too many people that we haven't been able to get help to. And I'll give you a good example. We had a young mother call us a week ago, and her baby was roughly 6 weeks old and had been identified as needing some serious brain surgery. and she didn't have any money. And she called us and wanted to know if we could help her pay for the operation. Of course, we don't have that kind of money either. But Kim knew 4 sources of help the lady could go to. And she gave her those 4 phone numbers. And I'm going to ask Kim to call the lady back to see if any of them were able to help her. This is one of the things we do. If a person calls us for help, many times that phone call will require that we follow up and make sure that the person got the help. And not too many organizations do that. But it is something that we do, and it's very, very important. Now, the first part of this show, we talked about COVID, we talked about facilities, and I just want to tell everybody that I had a 2-part article come out in Hometown News 2 weeks ago that was the in-home care aspect of it, and then this Friday will be the in-facility care part of it. So I kind of encourage you to read my articles because I don't know where you're going to go to get that kind of information that I put out in the articles. And I tell you, I think it's something you need to read and need to understand because many of you will be faced with making decisions, and a lot of that, you need the information I tell you in the article in order to make the right kind of decision. Having said that, on this part of the show, we want to talk about some scams, and most importantly, we want to talk about our car raffle. And let's talk about the scams first. Jennifer, you indicated that there are a lot of scams with the raffle and nursing homes and other places with this COVID-19 thing. What did you see, or what do you know that we need to get out to our audience?
So one of the other nonprofits that I assist with is the Brevard County Triad. And Triad is a wonderful organization that consists of the state attorney's office, the sheriff's office, the local police, and they have a Facebook page. They have a website too, but the Facebook page, we try to make sure that we post all of the scam-related activity that's going on. And so we kind of try to keep a pulse on the scams. And unfortunately, you would hope that people are all good at heart, and especially during this trying time, that they would be nice. And no, unfortunately, they know that this is a great time to pull off a scam because we're all a little bit anxious. We're not really on our game. So this is the perfect time to get people at an emotional state where they might not make a great decision. So we're seeing a Florida lottery scam that came out this week where they're calling, and they're specifically calling people who are 65 and over. And unfortunately, that's very easy to get online. Who's 65 and over. They're calling people and saying that they've won, but they can't claim the ticket because they're either not a citizen or for whatever reason they need their help. So they're going to get you to help them get this winning lotto ticket cashed, and they're going to give you half of the proceeds. But you end up giving them personal information, bank account information, maybe even paying them to help. And of course, they just take your money or your identification and they run. So we're seeing that this week particularly, but we're also seeing COVID-related scams, a lot of scams, fake charities asking for money. We're seeing, where they're saying that they have a cure or a home test kit, where it's not, they're not going door to door doing test kits. They're not going to mail you a test kit. There are a lot of drive-up locations. You can go to your doctor's office, the health department. But, unfortunately, they're taking advantage of a rough situation. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If you are concerned, if something smells fishy, take a step back, call the Department of Health. They're selling, and several businesses have gotten in trouble for what you might call snake oil remedies. That really are not, maybe it's vitamin C and it's going to boost your immune system so you won't get COVID. Well, no, it's vitamin C. It's not going to cure COVID. It's not going to prevent COVID. But businesses are putting things out there like that, and they're targeting, the elderly as an audience because they know we're at a higher risk. So let's target the people that are going to be most nervous about COVID. So we just really have to make sure that we're keeping up on those scams, making sure that people are aware of them, and ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to say no. If it's good today, it'll be good tomorrow. That's what my mom used to always say. If somebody's pressuring you into a decision, it's probably a bad decision. So
yeah, I'd be very, very leery of anybody, any organization calling me and asking for money in the current circumstances unless I really, really knew the organization and had been affiliated with them before by making any kind of donation. And even then, you've got to be extremely careful. I'll have to admit, something happened to me several weeks ago. Somehow I managed to lose 3 of the 5 operating programs on my computer. And I had to take it into Office Depot, and he had to reboot the whole darn thing. And the guy told me that he had never seen this happen in any computer program. Mm-hmm. And it had to do with Microsoft. So last weekend, I'm working on my computer, and all of a sudden, the whole thing shut down, and it got blocked out by a Microsoft type thing, and had a phone number to call and everything, and it scared the heck out of me. Mm-hmm. So I called this phone number, and the guy it was foreign sounding, but he was so doggone convincing that he ended up putting this antivirus thing on my computer, and I'm going to ask Kerry about it because I put it on my credit card so I can block the card if I have to. And but they're supposed to send me paperwork in the mail, and I'm going to wait and see if I get it. If I don't, I was smart enough to get some phone numbers, and I can report them to the state attorney's office. But and not everybody's going to do that. But it got my attention. And,
there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the online world too, where the hackers will put up a message saying, your system has been compromised. Call us right away at 1-800. We're going to fix it, and you pay them. And I can't comment on the specific situation that you found yourself in, but there are some tools, and they're also very good, by the way, about sending you emails that look official. We've been checking your account, and we have discovered this. You need to click this link right away. And so the first thing that you should ask yourself when you see a link is, does it look legitimate? Do I trust the person who sent it? And then is there a phone number that I can call to say, I'm not sure I trust this link? And one of the things, particularly when it comes to bank stuff, because particularly with, we're here with the, government assistance, and we need your bank account so we can direct deposit your stimulus check and all that. It's like the same thing that we've heard before when the IRS tries to call and say, we're coming to arrest you about your tax returns, and you can settle this right now by just giving us, some food cards from Walmart or something. You just got to start scratching your head and saying, does this pass a smell test? And the problem is a lot of these scams are really good looking. So the only way that you can really tell is what one of the things I'll do is if I see something from a bank and it's something like that, I will go look at the bank's website and then call the number on the bank's website and say, well, I'm seeing this. Is this something from you guys? And sometimes it could be legitimate. We're concerned your credit card did get hacked and we need to get you a new credit card. But sometimes it is just somebody called phishing, and they spell that Phishing, phishing, and they're just trying to get information. So just like Jennifer was mentioning, and like you were mentioning, oftentimes the tactic is we're going to get you on a place that we can get information from you, and then we're going to use that information for whatever scam purposes that we have in mind. And that's the danger of those things. And
yeah, because, having gone through this problem I had gone through, and especially since it was Microsoft and Windows, and that's exactly what my problem was. And they said that what really got me was I got a new computer, and this thing came up and said that I was running on a pirated system. And I just
Wow.
I had never seen anything like that, and it scared me. I didn't want to ruin my computer, and I didn't know. And so I called them, and Kerry and I went through all this, and at the end of the time, when I made a comment about something, she said, "You made the phone call?" And she said, "I didn't know you did that." And I said, "Well, I didn't even think about telling you about that, because she got to help me try to get this thing out." And the guy was so genuine, and he said, "Please don't hang up." He says, "You've got problems," and he said, "It's in the computer." He says, "Look what I'm showing you on this thing," and he had my computer going a mile a minute.
Yeah, it actually here's an odd thought about that. When you find somebody that is that helpful in customer service, my experience calling computer companies for tech support, you usually don't get really good customer service. You get barely adequate. And if somebody is going way out of the way, that actually to me would heighten my question to be sure that they're legit.
Right. And when you have computers, it's important to have a really good virus protection on your computer before you ever go onto the web.
Yes.
And honestly, we do, through Seniors Helping Seniors, we've got a tech support company that helps us to make sure that we are HIPAA compliant, to make sure that we are always monitored just in case, because so many things happen. So if anything weird comes up, I just call him and say, "All right, is this, this just popped up saying I need an update. Is that true?" And because they are monitored so well, usually, yes, that's fine. But every once in a blue moon, he'll call and say, "Hey, we got a little ping on your computer. We want to go through and just make sure everything is okay."
Okay, now let's talk about money on this show. And this is not a scam. This is the honest to goodness truth. Mm-hmm. Folks, you know that we do a car raffle. And that car raffle was supposed to be held on the 25th of April. Mm-hmm. And this coronavirus shut us down. We just didn't know what to do. The ticket sales really dropped off, and we had all kinds of problems. But I've been working with Mark Pollock, who is the owner of the American Muscle Car Museum, and Mark has given me a new date of 10 October that we can do the car raffle in the museum. He'll have it open to the people to come in like they've done for the last 3 years, and it's been a big selling point for people who buy tickets. But we're back to doing this, and the new date is 10 October 2020. That's
10/10/20. That should be easy for everybody to remember and put on their calendar, I think.
10/20?
10/10/20.
Yeah, 10/10/20.
So grab your pencil and just jot that down. That's the day we're going to have a big party at the American Muscle Car Museum.
Yeah, you just remember Jennifer's age, 20, and you divide it by 10.
There you go. Exactly.
It's easy. Yeah.
Bonus points for Joe.
Joe, how many tickets
Making up for your comments earlier.
How many tickets you going to buy now that I made you a 20-year-old?
Well, I've been competing with you selling tickets, so I don't know where you are, but I think I might have you beat this year.
I'm going to buy a lot of tickets.
I am just excited to see that we are back with this, because so many people now. This was the third time that we've actually done this at the American Muscle Car Museum. In the first year, I think it surprised all of us. I remember even Mark being surprised, like, "Wow, this is like a huge crowd." And there was something like 1,400 people there. And then last year they told us it was over 2,000. And they were telling us it was the largest single crowd that ever held at one particular time. They said, okay, when we have Veterans Day, we have a higher total number of people, but it's all spread out through the day. But to have 2,000 plus people there for the car drawing set a record for them. And it's so much fun, as you know, because first of all, just wandering around the museum is such an experience. You could probably spend days in there before you really have seen all that Mark has assembled in there.
I've never made it to the other end because I'm always working it, so I have never made it to the other end of the museum.
It is such
someday.
It's such an amazing place, and then the party that gets put on there. Last year it was all these amazing desserts. They had beer, wine, soda, water, whatever you needed. It was all included. And when you think about it, for the price of your Helping Seniors raffle ticket for $25, you couldn't, back when movie theaters were actually open, you couldn't go to a movie theater and buy your popcorn for $25.
No, and we figured people like, I'll just use the word gamble. There are a lot of people that like to do that. And people love 50-50s. And so last year we decided to do a 50-50. And Steve Cusick, who is, goes to the Knights of Columbus, they have a special winner. So he did the drawing based on their rules. And it was a big success, and we had probably the largest 50-50 we had, and I think the winner got like $1,000, and
wow.
But it shows that people, they're not just gambling; they're having fun. People like to have a chance to do something, and they see something happen right in front of them. In fact, I was told, and I didn't realize this till today, a couple of days ago, that the woman that won the car, I think she drove the car that was there away.
Yes, it was.
And I was with her. So she was there, and she said, she was working. She was volunteering. She was helping out, and she said, I did not buy a ticket. I'm going to go out front and get my ticket. So she bought her ticket that night.
Holy mackerel.
The night of the event is that she bought one ticket the night of the event, and she won.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what you were saying about, I was thinking like, well, people can't do their Las Vegas vacations right this year because of the COVID. So if you took the same amount of money that you would spend on your Las Vegas vacation and you bought Helping Seniors car raffle tickets, what might you come home with? You would have a choice of a 2020 Chevrolet Camaro, a 2020 Dodge Challenger, a 2020 Mazda Miata convertible, or a 2020 Kia Sportage. I mean, they are all very fine cars. I mean, do you guys have favorites among those?
I've driven them all now. So the Miata is the cutest.
Mm-hmm.
But
You just like to drive that convertible, I know.
I do. Actually, that's my mom's favorite. It's the convertible. I kind of like the Challenger.
Well, it's great cars, and they're all amazing cars from AJ Hires dealerships because you and AJ have worked together on car raffles going way back to the Alzheimer's days and that kind of thing.
I go back 30-some years, worked with him on that. And it's just amazing that, we've made a lot of friends over the years from people across the United States. And I can tell you that most of the people, that once they buy a ticket and they live Seattle, Washington, New York, Pennsylvania. A guy from Pennsylvania just bought $100 worth of tickets, and he buys $100 worth every year. I recognize the names because I see him do it every year. I see every envelope that comes back, and I just can remember those things. But it's a fun night. But most of all, you're helping a nonprofit, a charity. And think about this, folks. So many small businesses today are going out of business because they can't open their doors back up. And you got a lot of nonprofits that are in the same boat. They depend on people to help them. We can get as innovative as we can in trying to raise money, but if people don't want to participate in what we offer, we can't raise the money. And I don't know any nonprofit that its board of directors can afford to fund a nonprofit. You might get an organization like 211, and there's a couple others here in Brevard County that are paid for by United Way and a county commission, and that's not right.
Well, people assume that nonprofits get all this government money to operate on, and they don't understand that if were it not for the business partners who help support the work of Helping Seniors through their sponsorship and through the work that they do, just like Seniors Helping Seniors, but also the people who get behind and support the Helping Seniors car raffle. That's what helps keep the Senior Information Helpline funded and open and available to help people in Brevard County.
Yeah, the whole the result in this is like a lady that called us a couple of days ago and said, I'm such and such age, and I have to get to the doctors on this date and for a cataract surgery, and then I have to get back on this date for a follow-up and everything. And I called Kim and I said, were you able to help? Did you get a hold of it? She said, it's all taken care of, Joe.
Good.
And and this lady doesn't have to go until July, but she knows that she's going to be able to get there to her surgery for her cataracts, and that's so important when you're older and you just don't know what's going to happen. So we got about 2 minutes left. Jennifer, anything else that you can have? Now, something intelligent, something that's
Your
important.
phone number for Seniors Helping Seniors.
Thank you, Kerry. So Seniors Helping Seniors is 321-722-2999. And we're also now offering the electronic caregiver, which is a 24/7 monitor from home. It has GPS, so if someone does have dementia and wanders, we can find them. But it can include medication, reminders, telehealth. We can even do Bluetooth blood pressure, glucose monitor. So it's helping us keep our people healthy and at home, and maybe not having to go out to the doctor quite as much, so that we can keep them safe.
Now that you said that, I was notified the other day that there's a medical program out that will let us help people get a phone system put into their home at no cost if they're hard of hearing. So we'll
Absolutely.
talk about that on the show next week and get people updated on that. Kerry?
Good. No, buy your tickets, HelpingSeniorsCarRaffle.com. HelpingSeniorsCarRaffle.com. You've got the date, 10/10/20. That's the date you want to be. It even sounds like a lucky date, right? At the American
right,
Muscle
right.
Car Museum.
Okay, we'll wind her down now. We're out of time. And thank you for listening this week. And join us next week at the same time, same place on your radio dial. Don't forget. See you next week.